Thank you for tuning in to Café with Sandra K. Today, I am honored to introduce you to a truly remarkable woman, Florence Fabricant. Florence is an acclaimed food and wine writer for the New York Times dining section. She is the author of 13 highly respected cookbooks, including the book we are celebrating today, the Ladies Village Improvement Society Cookbook, 125th Anniversary Edition, Eating and Entertaining in East Hampton. Welcome, Florence.
Thank you so much, Sandra, for that wonderful introduction.
Well, it's all very true.
I guess.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you. I'd like to begin by asking you to share with the audience the history and the mission behind the Ladies Village Improvement Society.
Well, it began about 125 years ago and was not started by just ladies, but there was a group of people in the community who felt that there were certain improvements needed, particularly in the village, things like sidewalks and care for the wonderful elm trees that were lining the avenues, and other elements of the village that somehow village government was not tending to, and they felt that it was time for a volunteer group to step in, raise money, and be able to support the community aesthetically, and they've gone beyond just aesthetics to help with scholarships, and they have a wonderful store. And they
have the LVIS fair that raises...
The fair every year that everyone looks forward to. It's been a little disrupted because of COVID, but I hope it'll be back on track. So they're a real presence. And even though the name is a mouthful, they've done a great job. Some people refer to it as Elvis, but...
That's great. Yeah. Very nice. Florence, I know that we all know that you have a brilliant career. I'd like you to share with us your journey.
Well, my journey started basically in East Hampton in terms of professionally, because I started writing about food for the East Hampton Star in the early 70s, and not long after I began to get assignments for the New York Times. And it, you know, you could say from downtown East Hampton to Midtown Manhattan is not such a long journey, depending on the traffic, but that's the sum total of it, really, and I'm still at it.
Okay, that's great. And I know that you have other very respected cookbooks, and we are delighted to focus today on the Ladies Village Improvement Society Cookbook. Share with us the process. How did this book evolve, and who, talk to us about this incredible collaboration.
Well, going back many years, I don't know exactly how many cookbooks the LVIS has produced, and they were usually, until the 100th anniversary, they were these spiral bound, typical community cookbooks with recipes contributed by whoever.
Yes.
And so-and-so and grandma and my cousin and whatnot. And over the years, they evolved somewhat, but they were very much rooted locally. The 100th anniversary cookbook was a little fancier. It was not spiral bound. And then the feeling was that for the next one, they wanted to be a little splashier, more of a presence, and to have it in 4-color with beautiful photography, thanks to Doug Young.
Yes.
And to do more of a typical cookbook that you will see in bookstores and so forth, instead of a spiral-bound community affair. They had their eye on things like the Junior League cookbooks that have been done over the years that were very elegant books. So this is what they wanted, and they came to me as a possible author. And I've done
Smart
this
choice.
type of book before. I did one for Sloan Kettering called Park Avenue Potluck. And I proceeded kind of in the same manner by gathering recipes first from members of the organization.
Yes.
And then, thanks to the help of the LVIS membership and the Cookbook Committee, we sought recipes from artists, writers, celebrities, and people like that who are part of the East Hampton community. There were already several of them who had contributed to previous cookbooks, and we used a couple of those. The Martha Stewart recipe, for example, had been in a previous cookbook. But I think with the Cookbook Committee, I assembled probably close to 400 recipes. And then it was a matter...
Did you reach out individually to each of these people, or were these recipes submitted to you through the LVIS
the
committee?
LVIS sought recipes and they were submitted, and then they reached out to other like notables like Ralph and Ricky Lauren to get their recipes.
And restaurants. I mean, there's many...
And the local restaurants,
restaurants.
exactly. The local restaurants had contributed previously, local chefs, so we went in that direction as well. And with the help of the LVIS Cookbook Committee, the recipes came to me.
Yes.
And then I began to sort through them. I did not use recipes that were obviously clipped from a magazine or taken from another cookbook. And I wanted recipes that had a certain level of originality. When it came to requesting recipes, for example, from Ralph and Ricky Lauren, we didn't ask them for a particular recipe, left it open to them to decide what they wanted to send us. And then when I got most of the recipes, it seemed to make sense to assemble them as menus. Menus tied very closely to the seasonality of this region.
Yes. And that's what the cookbook speaks to.
So there's no ski house recipe, for example. But truly, that's the way the book is organized, according to the seasons, governed by what you find on the farm stands. I think the first menu in there is the farm stands reopened.
And actually your salad,
yes,
the spinach and endive is in there.
Yes,
which we'll get to.
And so it's geared that way to the farm stands and to the seafood and kind of what people do out here.
Yes.
So,
beaches, picnics,
yeah,
Thanksgiving, open houses, holiday parties.
Right.
These are all different themed menus that you will find in this magnificent
and
book.
unlike most cookbooks today, there is not a recipe for salmon. Salmon is not a local fish, and I thought there's so much salmon out there, and you can buy it here,
Yes.
that I didn't think it was necessary.
Okay.
And just to give you one example of the direction that we went.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, Florence, we're going to start with, we have a white start punch. This is from a local member, Phyllis Chase of LVIS, and it's got some wonderful ingredients in it.
Yes.
An elderflower liqueur, elderberry syrup, some vodka, lemon juice, So why don't we have a little toast.
Okay.
This is toasting to you and all that you've done and contributed to the community and to us nationally with all of your incredible cookbooks.
And to the viewers and the readers, and hope everybody remains in good health.
And to LVIS, the Ladies Village Improvement Society. May the spirit of East Hampton and the preservation continue. Cheers. Very nice. Very nice. Beautiful.
That's lovely.
So, Florence, you have a treat in store for us. You're going to be preparing a dish. Do you want to tell us what this is?
Well, smoked fish rillette. Rillette it's a plural in French. It's usually made with pork or duck, and it's like finely shredded with the fat from the meat, seasoned with salt and pepper, and used as a spread.
Okay.
But recently, chefs have been creating rillette with fish. Eric Repair at Le Bernardin does one with salmon, for example. And Michael Nolan at Fresno Restaurant smokes his own local fish and does his with local fish. And this, I'm using smoked trout, but you could use smoked mackerel, smoked bluefish. Whatever smoked fish that you can find in the market works. The thing that's beautiful about this recipe is that it's very flexible and very tolerant, and I make it all the time because it's a go-to simple thing to have on hand if people drop in for drinks or you need a sandwich spread, what have you. And it's basically 3 ingredients. I've already shredded the trout so you can see it.
Right.
And you can do that with a fork in a food processor. These are finely minced shallots that I'm going to add and mix them together. We've been smelling the shallots on the set. Yeah, and you just mix that. You can do that part of it in the food processor together with the fish. It needs a tablespoon or so of lemon juice. That's all. I found lemons, you never know, but this is a lemon without pits. How lucky is that?
That's lucky.
And then, to sort of bind it all together, I have creme fraiche. You can use sour cream, you can use yogurt, you can use a combination, and the proportions will depend on basically the texture you want.
So this would be for, well, it's an appetizer of sorts.
Yeah.
Yes.
This will make about a little more than a cup.
Okay.
A cup and a half, and certainly enough for.
And this is good for brunch. It's before dinner.
Yep.
You were telling me earlier that it could be a late night snack.
It could be a late night snack. It could be, you could spread it on toast and serve it as canapes. And that's all it takes.
Okay.
And the smoked fish is salty enough that you don't really even need salt and pepper, but if you wanted to add salt and pepper, minced chives, you name it,
Great.
It would take to that.
It's a nice recipe, easy and light
Yep.
for those that don't want to eat any heavy foods. This is great.
Well, it's rich enough
Right.
because of the cream in it, but you don't eat that much of it either.
Right.
There we go.
And a nice little taste. Yeah. Beautiful.
And I put it in this little crock.
Thank you.
I've garnished this with capers. That's another thing you could do.
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent. Thank you. Yum. I have to finish eating.
We should have had napkins. Well,
That's okay. We're good.
and then you want to talk about the rest of the menu?
Yes, certainly.
I decided the book needed a vegan menu. And there was this curried cauliflower soup recipe that was basically vegan. So I used that as the jumping off point for the vegan menu that also has a couscous dish.
It
Some
has Hilaria Baldwin's vanilla
there's a
smoothie.
smoothie. The
Katie
couscous
Lee's.
is from Christy Brinkley that was in a previous cookbook. Katie Lee's Moroccan carrots. So it's a hearty menu.
Yes.
But still,
It's nice.
It's
many
vegan.
people are vegan, and many people
Yeah.
appreciate that
Yeah,
today.
I think it's important today.
That's right.
There are a great number of vegetarian recipes in the book,
Yes.
but not strictly vegan.
Okay.
And then this is a play on
The palm.
a dish from the Palm called steak a la stone, which is served on a bed of peppers and onions and bread, toasted bread, croutons. And there was a recipe that I got for this pepper and onion relish that was so delicious, and I couldn't find a spot for it. So I asked the Palm whether it would be okay if I substituted that to serve with the steak, and they said fine. So
Great.
that's what you have here. And this, if you don't put the croutons in, the relish itself is great to keep on hand.
Yes.
Because it holds up a long
And you
time
can
in the
put it in
refrigerator.
jars and
Yeah, you don't even have to go through the whole canning process. And then this is a salad I often do in the winter. This is my recipe. It's spinach and endives and red onion with a
Pecans.
scattering of pecans on top.
That's lovely.
And then finally, we have what are called Nana's brownies. They are Ricky Lauren's mother's brownie recipe.
Yes.
And they are actually served in the cafes that Ralph Lauren has.
And the Polo Bar.
And the Polo Bar.
Yes.
And now you have the recipe.
That's right.
So that's where we're at here. And this is not a menu from the book. This is cherry picking recipes that are in the book.
Yes, and it is a seasonal bounty of menus and recipes. And we did have more or less a holiday theme here, but the book does speak to, and let's talk about it, some of the other summertime
Well, there's a
features.
whole, for instance, there's a whole chapter on strawberry recipes. They're
Yes,
all
strawberry time.
strawberry desserts. Yeah, because strawberries are one of the local crops. When the strawberries are in season and the fields are filled with them, you can just put down your car windows and get the aroma. They're fabulous. And there are a couple of farms where you can still pick. And I remember when my kids were little, they would be picking their own strawberries and
Yes.
come home with baskets of them. And for me,
Yes.
it's the local strawberries. There's no comparison
Yes.
between those and what you generally get in the supermarket off season.
Yes, and I read that you have your strawberries from May to July for the most part.
Yeah, depending on the weather. Although
Yes.
there are now some farms that are cultivating a kind called TriStar,
Okay.
which are in season until September. On the North Fork, there are TriStar strawberries available. And so there are 3 or 4 different strawberry dessert recipes. That's a late spring thing. And then there is a beach picnic, and
Yes.
there are a holiday entertaining menu that's quite elaborate, but you can not have to do it
Pasta,
all.
and you have pastas by the porch.
Pastas on the
the
porch, supper after the movies. And there's one that I'm particularly fond of called, I think, leaf raking or
Yes,
something
yes.
like that. And the centerpiece for that menu is a clam pie. Now,
Okay.
clam pie is something that is so local here.
Yes.
And there used to be a place that sold them, and the fish markets used to sell them, and they're not so easy to find anymore. And there must have been a clam pie recipe in every LVIS cookbook, and I sort of read through them, used some ideas and not some ideas, and anyway, assembled my own, and I think it's great.
Yes.
And in fact, I've used the filling instead of as a pie, as the filling for quesadillas. So it works that way too. Each of the recipes has what are called improvements.
Yes.
Play on the name of the organization. And what those are tips of what you can do to use the leftovers or vary the recipe somehow, and kind of a little lagniappe to give you something additional to do.
Yes, and to put your own creativity into
Exactly.
the recipes,
Yeah, yeah.
which is wonderful. And let's talk about some of the restaurants and some of the chefs that collaborated to put this cookbook together.
Yeah.
That may hold a special place in
Well,
your heart.
yeah. I mean, Almond Restaurant and Nick and Tony's that have both been here a very long time.
Yes.
The Palm.
The Maidstone.
Fresno, the Maidstone.
And all of them have contributed
Yeah.
to this
And
wonderful
also
book.
chefs from some of the clubs like the Devon Yacht Club.
Yes.
And the Maidstone Club. And also chefs who do not have restaurants here but live here.
Ah.
There are a number of them, like Eric Repair. He has he gave us a magical cold melon gazpacho recipe. It's basically, I think, 3 ingredients.
Mm-hmm.
It's a ripe cantaloupe style melon,
I know we have it featured.
ice cubes, and olive oil. I think those are the only ingredients, aren't they, Sandra?
Yes.
When I got the recipe, I looked and I said, there's no acid in this, no lime juice, nothing like that. He said, doesn't need it. Very
beautiful.
simple and really delicious.
Yes.
So that's another example of how chefs have contributed. And then there are recipes not only from LVIS members, but from local people, well, local artists, some of whom are no longer with us. We did get a recipe from the notebooks of Lee Krasner, for example.
Yes, I saw that. That was wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
An
different-
orange type custard of
Yes,
sorts.
it's delicious.
Yes.
And that came from Ruth Appelhoff, who had been the director of Guildhall, and she passed a couple of years ago, but we were really fortunate to have her contribute that recipe because she knew Lee Krasner and has written a book about her.
Yes.
So that was a wonderful addition to have. And just people came out of the local community to contribute. An artist, Jack Seeklick, had a wonderful oatmeal recipe. I mean, farm stands from Pike's Farm Stand. We got the strawberry shortcake from Jennifer Pike.
Christy Brinkley's couscous.
Yep. So it's a huge variety of sources for these recipes. And I tested them all with the help of LVIS. Some of them the members helped test, but if there was any question, I would take over. But I tested I would say I tested 75% of them in my kitchen.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. That must have been great.
It
How,
was.
how,
Well-
how much time did it take from the
Well-
start of the book actually until completion?
Probably almost a year.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
that's nice.
Yeah.
That's not too much time. I mean,
No.
relatively
Well,
speaking,
and then
for
there
this
was
incredible,
all the writing as well.
sure,
So-
which is beautifully
and then
written,
the
of course.
food photography, which Doug Young took care of with the stylists. We had more than one stylist, and but it all came together, and it was an exciting project to see
Sure,
come
it's a
to
celebration.
fruition. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You also
definitely.
have a forward by Martha Stewart,
Yeah,
which was
Yep.
a beautiful write-up
Yep.
in the book.
and there's a recipe from Bonnie Krapinski, Bonnie and Ben, who died in that plane crash 2 years ago. But Bonnie was very instrumental in getting this project off the ground, and very, very much a force at LVIS. So I'm glad. In fact, her lamb recipe is on the cover.
Ah, how nice.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Very beautiful. Well, Florence, I'd like to thank you so much for being here. This was truly a pleasure and an honor. I'm sure everyone's going to delight in watching this show, and certainly in taking a look at this beautiful, magnificent book that you put together. And we want to thank the LVIS committee and everyone involved, including Ann Thomas, that was instrumental in making all of this come together and happen. And we want to thank LTV And up next, everyone, I'm very proud to have another very special, iconic figure with us. It will be Joe Guerrera, who is the owner of Citarella. And Joe, stay tuned, does know fish. Thank you again. Thank you, Florence.
Thank you, Sandra.
A pleasure.
A pleasure for me.
Kisses, everyone.